October 2nd, 1980. Muhammad Ali, the greatest of all time, walked into Caesar's palace at 38 years old and got destroyed for 10 rounds by Larry Holmes.
Solid right hand of the fight there, taking on the chin of Muhammad Ali. How much more of this can he take?
Tyson watched every second of it on closed-circuit TV in Albany with Cus D'Amato. The next morning, that 14-year-old kid named Mike Tyson picked up a phone and made a promise to Muhammad Ali that he had absolutely no business making. He said, "When I grow up, I'll fight Holmes and I'll get him back for you."
When I'm a top fighter, when I get big, because I'm only 14, but I think when I get big, I'm a DIC K-head.
7 years later, he kept that promise. But there's something about this night that nobody ever talks about. Cus D'Amato. The man who made that phone call never got to see it happen. Before you can understand what happened on January 22nd, 1988, you need to understand one man. Not Tyson, not Holmes, not Ali. Cus D'Amato. Cus was already a legend before Mike Tyson existed. He'd trained Floyd Patterson to the heavyweight title. He'd trained Jose Torres to the light heavyweight title. He understood boxing the way architects understand buildings, not just what it looks like from the outside, but every structural element holding it together from within. By the late 1970s, Cus was living in a Victorian house in Catskill, New York. Retired, finished, telling anyone who'd listen that he was done with boxing and done with fighters. And then a 13-year-old kid from the Brownsville projects in Brooklyn showed up at his gym. Mike Tyson had been arrested 38 times before he was 13 years old. He'd been in and out of juvenile detention. He was heading nowhere that anyone could see except prison or an early grave. The system had already written him off. Cus hadn't. The first time Cus watched Tyson spar, he turned to the people around him and said something nobody in that room ever forgot. He said, "That kid right there will be the heavyweight champion of the world." Nobody believed him. Tyson was 13. He was raw. He was unpolished. He was a kid from the streets who'd never had a real trainer in his life. But Cus saw something nobody else could see, and he spent every day from that moment building what he'd seen in his mind into something the world could witness. Tyson moved into Cus's house in Catskill. Cus became his legal guardian. Their relationship wasn't trainer and fighter. It was closer to father and son than anything else either of them had ever had. Cus told Tyson every single day that he would be the youngest heavyweight champion in history. He said it so many times and with such complete certainty that Tyson started to believe it himself. That belief was the most important thing Cus ever gave him. Not the peekaboo style, not the footwork, not the combinations, the belief. And then, one October night in 1980, that belief got tested in a way neither of them was prepared for. Muhammad Ali was Tyson's hero, not one of his heroes. His hero, the man he watched on television and studied and wanted to become more than anything else in the world. On October 2nd, 1980, Ali stepped into the ring at Caesar's Palace in Las Vegas to fight Larry Holmes for the heavyweight title. Ali was 38 years old. He hadn't fought in 2 years. He was a shell of what he'd been, and everyone in boxing knew it. Everyone except Ali. Larry Holmes was the best heavyweight in the world at that moment. Technically precise, physically dominant, with a jab that most fighters couldn't see coming until it had already landed. He didn't want to fight Ali. He'd said publicly that he loved Ali, that he didn't want to hurt him. But once that bell rang, none of that mattered. What Holmes did to Ali over 10 rounds was one of the most painful things anyone in boxing had ever witnessed. Not because it was the most violent fight in history, but because it was Ali. Because everyone watching knew what Ali had been and could see with their own eyes what he'd become, and the gap between those two things was almost impossible to look at. Round after round, Holmes landed. Ali couldn't move the way he used to move. He couldn't slip. He couldn't counter. He just stood there and took it and kept trying to find something that wasn't there anymore. After 10 rounds, Ali's corner refused to let him answer the bell for round 11. The referee waved it off. TKO. It was done.
A TKO! It'll be scored as a technical knockout.
In Albany, New York, a 14-year-old kid named Mike Tyson sat next to Cus D'Amato and watched every single second of it on closed-circuit TV. When it was over, the drive home to Catskill took 1 hour. Nobody in that car said a single word for the entire journey. Not Cus, not Tyson, nobody. Just silence and the weight of what they'd witnessed. Tyson would later say he was offended. Not sad, not upset. Offended. The way you feel when something sacred gets violated in front of you and there's nothing you can do about it. The next morning, Cus picked up the phone and called Muhammad Ali. And then he handed the phone to a 14-year-old kid and let him say what he needed to say. Tyson told Ali, "When I grow up, I'll fight Holmes and I'll get him back for you." A 14-year-old boy, a promise to the greatest of all time, a promise he had absolutely no business making, a promise that would take 7 years to keep. Neither of them knew that night that the man who made that phone call possible wouldn't be alive to see it happen. Cus D'Amato spent the next 5 years building Mike Tyson into exactly what he'd told everyone he would become. Every morning, every session, every combination drilled 10,000 times until it wasn't a technique anymore, but a reflex. Every conversation about fear and courage and what it means to be a champion not just in the ring, but in your own mind. On March 6, 1985, Tyson turned professional. He won his first fight in the first round. The heavyweight division started paying attention to something happening in upstate New York that didn't fit any category they had. Cus was 77 years old and sick. His body was failing in ways his mind refused to accept. He kept working, kept coaching, kept telling Tyson every single day what he was going to become. On November 4, 1985, Cus D'Amato died. 2 years before the revenge would happen. 2 years before the promise would be kept. The man who believed in Tyson first, the man who saw a heavyweight champion in a 13-year-old kid from the projects when nobody else saw anything at all, was gone before the vision was complete. Tyson was 19 years old. He was now fighting for a dead man. Think about what that means for a moment. Every fight from that point forward wasn't just a fight. It was a conversation with someone who couldn't answer back. Every round was a way of saying, "I heard you." Every knockout was proof that you were right. Every title was something Cus had seen coming before Tyson himself believed it was possible. On November 22, 1986, just over a year after Cus died, Tyson knocked out Trevor Berbick in round 2 and became the youngest heavyweight champion in history at 20 years and 144 days old, fulfilling every single thing Cus had predicted about him before he was old enough to drive a car. Cus had told him he would be. He wasn't there to see it. But there was still one thing left undone. One promise made on a phone call to a hero. One debt that hadn't been paid. Larry Holmes was still out there. In the months after Cus died, Tyson could have fallen apart. He had every reason to. The man who found him, the man who shaped him, the man who gave him structure and discipline and purpose and a roof over his head when the alternative was a cell in a juvenile detention facility, that man was gone. What Tyson did instead was fight. Not because fighting was all he knew, but because fighting was the only language left that Cus could still hear. Every time Tyson walked into a ring, he was walking in for two people. Himself and the old man in Catskill who never got to see how the story ended. The wins kept coming. The knockouts kept coming. The heavyweight division kept running out of answers for what Tyson was doing to people. He wasn't just winning fights. He was ending them, fast, violent, final, the way Cus had designed him to. By January 22, 1988, Tyson's record stood at 32 fights, 32 wins, 28 knockouts. He was undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. He was 21 years old, and Larry Holmes was coming out of retirement to face him. Holmes had 48 wins and 2 losses and 34 knockouts on his record. He was a former champion, a Hall of Famer, a man with nothing left to prove and everything to lose. But Tyson wasn't coming into this fight as a boxer. He was coming in as a son, keeping a promise to a dead man. Trump Plaza Hotel, Atlantic City, New Jersey, January 22, 1988, billed as heavyweight history, and that's exactly what it became. Larry Holmes was 38 years old, the exact same age Muhammad Ali had been when Holmes destroyed him 8 years earlier. That symmetry wasn't lost on anyone in that building. Fate had written the ending before the first bell rang. The numbers were the same. The city was different, but the story was completing itself whether anyone had planned it that way or not. And then there was the other detail. Muhammad Ali was there. Not watching from home, not sending a message. There, in the building, ringside. The man whose destruction Tyson had watched as a 14-year-old boy on a closed-circuit TV screen in Albany. The man Tyson had made a promise to on a phone call the morning after the worst night of Ali's career. Before the first bell, Ali leaned close to Tyson and whispered 4 words: "Get him for me." The same promise, 7 years later, completed in a circle. Tyson walked to the center of the ring and the fight began. Round 1. Tyson came forward the way Cus had taught him, cutting angles, shortening the distance, making Holmes feel the weight of what was coming before it arrived.
Boring in the way he always strictly a defensive fighter, and this is the first round. Mike Tyson, Larry. Fear of Mike Tyson in the first. Tyson just showing no.
Round 2. Round 3. Holmes was surviving, but he wasn't threatening. He couldn't find the answers for what Tyson was bringing, and everyone in that building could feel the ending getting closer with every exchange.
Instead, Larry's just holding. So put the pressure on Larry. Plus, Larry is a guy in his career. Holmes still won most of.
Round 4. Tyson dropped Holmes.
Right hand, and down goes the former champ.
Holmes got up. Tyson dropped him again.
Larry's down again.
Holmes got up again. And then with 41 seconds remaining in the round, Tyson dropped him for the 3rd time.
He goes. Larry's hurt. It's all over. He is knocked out. He didn't even buck out. It was a vicious.
3 knockdowns, same round. The referee waved it off. 4th round TKO. Holmes could not continue. In the dressing room afterwards, a 21-year-old heavyweight champion sat down and said the words that only made sense if you knew the whole story. "Everything Cus told me was right. I'm gonna cry. I put so much into it. Not I won, not I'm the best, not look what I did. Everything Cus told me was right." Larry Holmes was 38 years old when Tyson fought him. The exact same age Ali was when Holmes fought him. The circle was complete. A 14-year-old kid watched his hero get destroyed and made a promise he had no business making. A dying man spent his last years building that kid into something the world had never seen. And then that man died 2 years before the promise could be kept. Tyson kept it anyway. 3 knockdowns, done by round 4 with 41 seconds remaining. Ali, ringside, watching every second of it. The debt paid in full. Cus D'Amato never got to see it happen, but in every single way that matters, he was there. Because without him, none of it exists. Not the promise, not the champion, not the revenge, not the 21-year-old sitting in a dressing room in Atlantic City trying not to cry. Some fighters win titles for themselves. Mike Tyson won this one for a dead man. And that's why nobody who knows this story has ever forgotten it. Subscribe to Knockout Realm because the next story we're telling is just as powerful as this one.